Probably my favorite place to buy video games in Portland, Oregon is Hawthorne Game Exchange over on Hawthorne. They have quite the selection of retro video games of various generations, a selection of nerdy movies, and it's generally an awesome place. Alright, this is their controller case that you see when you first enter the store. They have a Saturn multi-tap there, Super Nintendo Advantage, various Nintendo controllers, a Namco Ridge Racer analog controller, memory cards, various GameCube, Dreamcast. Pokemon is a pretty big deal for any retro video game store, and Hawthorne Game Exchange is no different. They have all their Pokemon games available right there in the Poke section. New stuff that they are pricing. Down here they have some of the newer Pokemon games on Switch, and then some loose game manuals that they have. Some snacks, and what's this? Local cartoonist Marcy King? That's pretty cool. Down here they have some of their more expensive games. They got Final Fantasy III, Mario RPG, Earthbound, Contra Force, and The Punisher for Genesis is go up there in price. Axlay, Super Street Fighter 2 Alpha, an amazing game. Final Fight 2, Peacekeepers, you don't see that too often. Xenoblade Chronicles. Some import PS3 games, King of Fighters, Gyres, Miracle Warrior, Silent Hill, Dino Crisis, Persona, King of Fighters for Game Boy Advance, which is actually pretty cool, OEM, GameCube component cables, some loose clearance Game Boy Color games, pretty cute Mario buttons, Mario and Zelda mints. Here is their selection of loose disc games, and you will occasionally find something pretty interesting, and they're at least pretty affordable, while Luigi watches on. Battle Arena Toshinden 4, the PAL version. You don't know when you're going to see that. I don't even know anything about that game. Coming around to the Sega Genesis section, there's the Menacer cartridge, loose Genesis games, Mercs, Captain America, Kid Chameleon, Power Rangers, Eternal Champions. That's actually a really underrated game, I think. Handful of Game Gear games, a couple loose Sega Master System games, and over here for the Sega Saturn. Let's see, they have Daytona USA, Nights into Dreams. Everyone has to have that one. Daytona, Virtual Cop, Virtual Fighter 2, Virtual Fighter Kids, Virtual Fighter Remix. Then down to the Sega Dreamcast, Time Stalkers. I'm always curious about that. I wonder if I actually have it or not. Some NFL games. Marvel vs. Capcom, that's a great one. Right next to the OG Xbox games. Then the boxed Sega Genesis, Phantasy Star 2. Everyone needs to play through that one. The Sega Menacer. One of these days I'm going to actually get that. I have various other light guns, but I don't have the Menacer. Various boxed Sega Genesis games. Boxed Mortal Kombat, that's an essential game. Light Crusader. I've always been curious about that. Again, Phantasy Star, one of the best role-playing games ever made. Phantasy Star 2. The Sega Genesis version of Street Fighter II Champion Edition. And then they have Raston for the Master System. Then moving on, they have the OG Xbox section. Pretty extensive. Fable, love that game. Halo, I've heard that's popular. Lego Star Wars. Sega GT, that's a good one. Ooh, SSX on tour next to SVC Chaos for $22. That is a great game. And at $22, that's a very affordable way to play that Neo Geo game. Also included on that Sega GT is Jet Set Radio Future. Absolutely love that game. Wish it would get released on anything modern. Their Xbox One section. Very affordable. Mega Man Legacy Collection 2. Red Dead Redemption 2. Skate 3? Was that on Xbox One? I thought that was on previous. Beautiful Katamari. Amazing game. Their Xbox 360 section.
Hi.
Various GameCube storage sections. So many plushies. So many plushies at Hawthorne Game Exchange. Their Famicom cartridge section. Spartan X, also known as Kung Fu. Some Nintendo Pulse sports games. Copy of Arkanoid 1 and Arkanoid 2 that I traded in. They really need to restock. I've been trying to convince them to restock their import games section. Okay, moving over. They got an Panasonic CRT with an NES hooked up to it. And then they have this, I asked Marcy about this, and it's a watch display. This is actually a jewelry display, but instead of displaying jewelry, it displays various portable games. Rhythm Heaven, Sonic Colors, Harry Hatsworth. I actually really like Harry Hatsworth for DS. That is a great combination platformer and puzzle game. Up in the Vita section, that Toykaden, Persona 4 Golden, amazing game on the Vita. Vita going up in prices. Mario Kart on the Game Boy Advance, Sonic 3 Game Boy Advance, Simpsons Road Rage. Going down to the Game Boy Color section. Donkey Kong for Game Boy. Nemesis. Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge on Game Boy. Super Mario. Their video game accessories section. required the old school cartridge converter for Famicom and the Hyperkin cartridge converter. Both of them excellent options for playing Famicom games on your American game systems. Had to check out their anime section, Black Magic M66, always awesome to see that. I was looking for one of those for a long time. Always like to check out the anime on DVD section. A lot of stuff that you can't get streaming. They also have a selection of movies on VHS. VHS, it just hits differently. Superman 3, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Top Gun. And Blu-rays. And I thought I'd take a look at their NES section. They have Tengen Pac-Man, Metal Gear, Super Contra, Castlevania, Legend of Zelda Gold, Mario 2, Mario 3, Goonies 2, Karnov, Bad Dudes, Bayou Billy, Go-Go 13 with cartoons, implied cartoon sex. Here's their PSP section. I'm tempted to start collecting for PSP again. There is their PlayStation Vita. I love PlayStation Vita. PlayStation 1. I see Guilty Gear. Final Fantasy Origins. That's a great game. PlayStation 1 Long Box. I see Toshinden, Battle Arena Toshinden. Ooh, Namco Archives, Namco Museum Archives, Resident Evil, Japanese PlayStation, PlayStation 2, DOA 2 Hardcore, great game. Final Fantasy X, Grand Theft Auto, Grandia 2, great version of that game. All the Guitar Hero games. Ooh, tempted to get the Namco Museum, the one that's next to it, the anniversary, the Pac-Man collection. Mega Man X collection, Rock Band. Tony Hawk. And on to the PlayStation 4. Oh, no, PlayStation 5. Spider-Man Miles Morales. Down to the PlayStation 3. And Assassin's Creed. Next to Band Hero. Lego Rock Band. Great game. All the Lego Star Wars games actually really quite good. I'm a sucker for Star Wars. Pretty good deal on Super Street Fighter 4. Valkyria Chronicles, great game series. Yakuza, huge fan of the original Yakuza games. Ridge Racer 7, I believe that's the last console Ridge Racer. GameCube. Glad I got F-Zero before shot up in price. Rogue Squadron, glad I got that before it went up in price. The Japanese GameCubes. A couple boxed Nintendo games. DS. More GameCube. Switch. I should probably move slower so I can read those. And Wii is retro. Super Mario Galaxy. Samba de Amigo for $8. Man, that's a great game. And and it's just made to use the Wiimotes as maracas. Wii U. Now that the Wii U store is closed, the physical disc is the only way you can get Super Luigi U. You know, the Wii U still has great games that are only available on the Wii U. Moving on to their console sections, I got some PS2 Slims, a gold N64, PS3, the Famicom Classic Mini and Super Famicom Classic Mini bundle pack. I'm really surprised no one hasn't got that yet. Black Dreamcast Coolness. Again, I have both of those separate, but if I didn't, I would absolutely get that. Those are two great little mini console systems. Sweet looking GameCube, a Wii U, the OG Xbox. We can't call it the Xbox One, it's the OG. Black Dreamcast Coolness, the Sega Sports model, Sega Genesis Mark I and Sega CD, PlayStation 3, Genesis 1 and 2, and a OG Super NES. Going on to the Super NES, they got King of Monsters 2. Great Neo Geo game converted to Super Nintendo. Contra, getting up there in price, but still a great game. Home Alone. I saw they had Home Alone for Genesis, so I guess you could complete the Home Alone cinematic universe. Have both of them. And apparently someone got there and bought like 80% of their N64 games.
Hi, I'm Marcy. I usually stink up this place about like 5 days a week, overpricing all your video games, and secretly stealing the manuals.
Rebuffing, finding out what's bootleg, what's cool.
Restoring, repairing, and putting little price tags on each one, and giving them a little kiss, and sending them out into the world.
So, what's your favorite thing about working in a video game store?
I get to talk about video games non-stop. And nobody says it's not the time to talk about video games.
What is the repro jail?
The repro jail. That's where we send all the fake games that come in. Any fraudulent video games. They end up in jail here.
Can I see it?
Absolutely.
No, I have a sad truth. I actually had this copy of Super Mario Kart that my friend brought me back from Thailand. Lo and behold. So we got some Pokemon games there, some N64s, the repro jail.
It's very easy to end up with one of those.
By GameBoy Kun. What, you mean the $11 carts that I'm buying on AliExpress aren't legit? What?
Not all of them.
Now, I bought a Game Boy game, which I knew almost nothing about. Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise. And I could barely find anything about it online and was overcome with curiosity. So I took it home and gave it a shot. Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise was first released in October of 1990 for Game Boy. It was published by Romstar and developed by Sega Corporation. the Japanese release of this game was canceled, so the US version is all that was ever released. There's really not a lot of information about this game on the internet. There's no English Wikipedia article, only a Portuguese version which I translated into English. Jeremy Parish, an amazing YouTuber who is an inspiration to me, made a video about this rather obscure game, which I will link to in the description. So it's a 2D action platformer with puzzle elements. And let's just get the cat out of the bag and let me say it at the start. The character is, let's just say, questionable at best. Bluntly put, he's a rather offensive, outdated Chinese stereotype from about 120 to 150 years ago. He wears an old-fashioned Chinese robes, has a long ponytail, and is a round, jovial fellow shaped a little bit like Onsen. So, strangely, he actually did show up in another game made by Seta, Thunder and Lightning, known as Family Block in Japan, and was actually released in the arcade and on the NES, and it featured Mr. Chin running around, moving a paddle which bounced balls off of. So I'm sort of impressed that he actually had multiple game credits to his resume. So, in Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise, there are these little cartoon monsters that wander around the multi-platform stage that drop from the top similar to Mario Brothers, and Mr. Chin must place a magical ramen bowl between the monsters, and there's this magical blast which turns the monsters into walking peaches, and he must run over and gobble them up. You have a limited number of magic ramen bowls, and the monsters will instantly kill you if they touch you. However, he's rather fast on his feet and can jump quite far, and it's possible to go down the pipe at the bottom and end up at the top of the screen, again, much like Super Mario Brothers. So, and you can break some of the platforms by jumping underneath again, like Super Mario Brothers. Instead of points, he collects calories, and the only food that he eats are the walking peaches that were formerly monsters. So, to use a food pun, this game doesn't really seem fully baked. It seems more like a technical demo, but it can be fun for about 5 minutes, and that's about it. But it's almost a perfect example of an obscure game which is almost totally lost, but it really made me turn my head when I saw it at my local game store. But what's crazy is that this game came out in 1990. They should have known better that Mr. Chin is a rather offensive racial stereotype, and Japanese produced games don't really get a pass at that. But it's not too incredibly hateful, but it is a rather, let's just say, what WTF. But you know what? It has earned a place in my Game Boy collection, and yeah, I saw it, I was curious, and now I can tell you more about Mr. Chin's Gourmet Paradise. So, on this channel, I'm going to try and cover hunting for retro games and going through my collection and going through some of the more interesting and obscure ones. Mr. Chin definitely counts as that. But if you want to see more videos, then definitely give a like, a comment, and please subscribe. And that would really help out this channel. Thank you very much.